The first thing to do is to define an evidence brief and set up how it's different from a policy brief. And there's a few keywords I want you to keep in mind as you're thinking about evidence briefs, as you're beginning to craft an evidence brief, as you publish an evidence brief. Like, there's some words that you just need to lock inside your head and keep them locked in present as you write. The first thing that is that an evidence brief is brief. It's in the name. It's not a long document. This is not a journal article. This is not a conference presentation. This is a brief summary of research findings. This is meant to be relatively short, and we'll see some examples of what kind of length you should aim for in this document. Also, another keyword to keep in mind, you want it to be relatable. Right, when you write a research article, part of the job of a research article, because you're going into so many details, because you're introducing so much jargon, because you have statistical analysis, because you have mathematical foundations, the whole deal, tables and figures and plots and charts, everything. It's meant to a journal article, and we have plenty of modules on how to write a journal article. It is meant to be communicated, it is meant to be understood, but it's not necessarily meant to be relatable. So one of the points that we will explore in much more detail with an evidence brief is that you are communicating your research to a non-research audience. And so when you perform that act of communication, that is an act of translation, and you want that translation, what you communicate in this document, you want to be relatable. You want these people who are not researchers to relate to the contents of the evidence brief. You want them to connect to it. You want it to be relevant. You want them to digest it and ultimately put it into practice. And that's the third key word that I want you to keep in mind, along with succinct, along with relatable, is digestible. Digestible is it's not too much to swallow. It doesn't cause any discomfort when you read it. Like, think of a very pleasant meal that you get down in your stomach, you just feel good about yourself. You feel happy about yourself. That's what you want in an evidence brief. You want it to be digestible. You want people to put things into action. You want people to put your research or this summary of research into action. And so you want them to walk away happy. You want them to walk away understanding not just your research, but how to put it into practice. And I keep bringing up this putting into practice because that's exactly what an evidence brief does. It summarizes research findings in a succinct way, in a relatable way, in a digestible way, and it also is a bridge between research, especially cutting edge, recent, new research, and an active practice in the field. You want to update practitioners. You have learned something in your research and you want to communicate that to a community of practitioners so that they start doing that because you figured out a better thing to do. You figured out a better way of doing things. You figured out new information. You want to not just communicate that information. That's the point of a journal article, is to communicate the new thing and the new thing alone. Here is what we learned. Here is how we understood it. That is the point of a journal article. But the point of an evidence brief is to, one, summarize the new things that you've learned, but also give recommendations. Also put this into practice. And so, like a policy brief is anchored on its policy recommendations based on research findings. An evidence brief is anchored in a practice recommendation, a recommendation for practitioners. You are going to put your name on something that you want to see happen in the real world. This is a tool for those practitioners to learn and to grow and to self-educate. It's an opportunity because the practitioners are not reading the journal articles. They're not coming to the conferences. That's not their job. They're busy being practitioners. They have day jobs. And so if reading journal articles is not a part of your day job, like it takes a long time to read a journal article. And unless you're in the mode to constantly read journal articles as a part of your daily practice, it almost becomes insurmountable. And the jargon and the math and the methodology, and just when you are not the audience of a journal article, you can tell, because you can just tell, like, these are professional researchers communicating to other professional researchers. But when that professional research is translated through an evidence brief and it's targeted to practitioners, this is their opportunity. This is how they become acquainted with the latest research. This is how they know what the cutting edge is. This is how they find it out. This is the tool that they use to educate themselves about what the latest findings are, and to educate themselves about what they should put into practice based on those latest findings. And it's a great way, through the narrative of the evidence brief, to put research in a broader context. So, because it's so easy when you're an expert, like, what's the joke? An expert is someone who knows more and more about less and less. Like, you hyper narrow your focus and you become, and this is exactly what research does. You become hyper focused, hyper aware of one specific thing, and you research that thing and you study that, and you become the world's leading expert on that one thing. You know, as soon as you write a dissertation on the topic, you are the world's leading expert on that one topic. And it exists largely in isolation, partly in context of the research world, of the tree of knowledge that we have, of the knowledge that came before, about related knowledge and research findings, about future directions, but it sits over there. And where over there is very far away from the real world. This act of writing an evidence brief puts that research in a broader context. It puts that research in a real world context. And it does this in two ways. One, by providing a mode of communication to practitioners. You are talking about your research to a different audience. The very act of doing that means you have to put research in a context that makes sense to them. And two, because you are providing practice recommendations, you have to be aware of what the current practice is, and the deficits in the current practice, and the benefits of current practice, and how this new research might modify behavior. So by weaving it into the real world, you are putting your research in that broader context.